These are my three people and my dog. All right. So today we're going to be talking about how stress affects memory and focus. So you could have put in a lot of hours for an exam, only to have the day of the exam, your brain goes blank and you're sitting down and taking it and you've forgotten everything you're studied for. It could be really frustrating feeling that way and knowing you put in the work, but you just can't access the information. The CDC actually talks about this a lot. I looked into it and it noted that stress is a big factor of that. Mostly just because it raises your cortisol and that could actually decrease your academic performance. So stress actually triggers your body's stress response and it affects multiple things besides your brain. First, it affects your heart rate and your blood pressure. So the three things we'll be looking about when we look at stress is going to be your memory, how it affects focus, learning, and decision making. So anytime you feel stress, your body treats the stress as a threat. It sees it as something bad that it wants to get rid of. The hypothalamus is actually where you feel most of your stress. It kind of is the alarm in your mind. Once the brain picks up on that, your adrenal glands, they start cueing hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, and that's part of your fight or flight response. So adrenaline actually adds energy into your system, kind of like coffee. It just gives you a boost of heart rate and blood pressure. And then cortisol is a stress hormone, and it increases your glucose in your blood level to help you cope with the strain. In that moment, that can be handy for the way your body reacts. For example, before the exam, your nerves, they get a lot worse and you're more alert. But if the stress is constant and over a long period of time, it becomes something else. Prolonged stress can disrupt your body processes to the point where focus and memory suffer long term. As the Mayo Clinic points out, this is not just an emotional statue, but it also brings out physical changes. So stress is like a full swing. The brain is not spared. Take the hippocampus for instance. It is key for learning and storing retrieval of memories. Those are all things students need to do when they're preparing for an exam. Stress has a way of making it difficult to hold on to information clearly. According to Sandy and Pianolo Nava, the impact of stress on learning is not uniform, so it's not the same for everyone. It just depends how long the stress lasts and how intense it is and when it occurs. So in some cases, you might be more alert because of it, but with intense stress and prolonged stress, your memory can definitely suffer. So now that we've discussed the memory, let's move on to how it affects focus on learning and decision making. So all stress affects your decision making. You tend to make more impulsive decisions when you're stressed, or maybe not making a decision at all. Even with the best intentions to pay attention to what you're doing, stress can pull you away from the task at hand. Maybe you have a task to do and you're too worried, stressing about it instead of just doing it. Also, it leads to everything you do being less productive, whether you're working, studying, or trying to achieve any sort of goal, it just becomes less productive. So it's very important that you organize and store your ideas and your thoughts and have a game plan. Stress has a strong influence on the learning processes, which is why it could get in the way of good academic performance. And then decision making. So when you're overwhelmed, making the smallest decisions, it could be a big ordeal. Students find themselves at a loss when an assignment is due and they're trying to tackle it, whether it's last minute or they're just stressed about it from the beginning. This connects back to the CDC's observation that stress both affects concentration and decision making. So, in conclusion, stress is something more than just a feeling. It affects how we think, it affects how we are physically, and it for sure affects our brains. The main idea is that stress can interfere with memory and focus because it triggers the body's stress response and affects the part of the brain that is responsible for learning and recall. In totality, if a student can't seem to get his head around the material while studying and goes blank during an exam, it's not that they haven't tried. Oftentimes, it could be just the stress.
Wonderful.